Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Wietse Kouwboer and in today's video we're gonna do an analysis of the Coca Cola Company. Of course everybody knows Coca Cola. If you don't, you really have been living under a rock because Coca Cola is one of the strongest recognized brands in the world. But the Coca Cola Company is much more than just Coca Cola. In today's video I want to start with a little introduction about what the company is all about. Then I want to look into the financials, and last but not least I wanted to go over some of the predictions for the Coca-Cola stock and whether it's a buy or not. If that sounds interesting to you, please stick around for the video, but you can also use the timestamps in the description to jump to the parts that are the most interesting to you. I wanted to start by going over some of the brands that Coca-Cola Company owns. Well, of course, we all know Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola Zero, and the other variation. But they also own Sprite, Fanta, Schweppes, many different other ones. And they also diversify in categories. As you can see, sparkling soft drinks, water and hydration. They own smart waters, vitamin water. They bought that a few years ago. Also in the water section, very strong brand. Besides that, they also own Aquarius, a sport drink. If we go to if we go to juices, dairy and plant-based drinks, they also own some of those. As you can see here, Innocent Smoothie is one that I know, Fairlife. The other ones maybe not so popular here in the Netherlands, but for sure they are in the world. Coffee, they have the Costa Coffee, Georgia Coffee, also in that section, and tea, not just tea like hot tea, but iced tea, fused tea, many different kinds. Well diversified through all the different categories that has to do with drinks. And of all these brands, they have so many different products. So for example, with Coca-Cola, it's one brand, but you have the normal Coca-Cola, you have the Coca-Cola Vanilla, Coca-Cola Zero, Coca-Cola Light. It also comes in a bottle or in a container, so they have so many different products. And per day they serve more than 9 billion servings of Coca-Cola around the world. So that is insane, and that's just one of the brands. Coca-Cola started back in 1886 as Jacob's Pharmacy, and they were trying to make a cough syrup kind of drink, but they ended up making Coca-Cola. Everybody knows it. It is in the movies, it is in advertisements, it's in all the restaurants, all the bars, everywhere you go, there's Coca-Cola. They are available in more than 200 countries around the world, more than 9 billion servings per day. Let's move on to the financial analysis. As you can see, Coca-Cola is trading for around $54 per share. If we look at the 1 year chart, you can see that it has gone up quite a bit from, let's say, 45 to almost 55. So that's an increase of more than 20% in 1 year. And if you look way back, like when it first started, it went from basically like $1 to there. Dividend yield of 3.1% with $1.68 per share, and Coca-Cola pays per quarter. And if we look here at the dividend history for Coca-Cola, you can see they are super good with paying dividends. They're really known for sharing their profits with the shareholders. They had to decrease the payout back in 2012, went from 51 cents per quarter to 26 cents, but ever since they have been increasing their dividend payments, and the last dividend payment was $42 per share. Pretty stable company, obviously, especially if you look at the dividends. Those look really nice, haven't missed a quarter since a long time. And Coca-Cola can handle crises pretty well. Of course, they had lower sales due to COVID, but because they offer such a wide variety of products to consumers, businesses, they are still able to make substantial income. So that's really good. So let's move on to that actually. This is Macro Trends, by the way, really nice website to do some analysis of stocks. So yeah, if we look at the revenue for Coca-Cola, you can see here the trailing 12 months and here the quarter results has been going down quite a bit, because here in 2012 to 2015, quite stable, 10, 11 billion per quarter. Last year, 9 billion, 8 billion, 8 billion, 7 billion. So it has been going down. In 2012 was 48 billion. Now we have 33 billion. So more than 25% down. And if we look at the profit, it shows more or less the same. 2010, 2012, it was higher than it is right now. but it has been relatively stable. In 2020 it was 7.7 billion, in 2019 almost 9 billion, 6.5 billion, so more or less around the 7 to 8 billion. And then if we look at the dividend payout ratio, we look at the dividend yield, which was 3.1%, and the market cap is 234 billion. 234 billion times 3.1% is 7.2 billion. So that's the dollar amount in dividends that the Coca-Cola company has to pay, and they have a net income of 8 billion. Then if we divide that, you can see the payout ratio, and that's around 90%. So that's really high. What that means is that 90% of all the profit the Coca-Cola company makes goes to shareholders. Of course, for shareholders, this is nice, but on the other hand, it also shows the lack of growth. Because if you want to grow with your company, you need to invest money. But if almost all the money you earn goes to shareholders, there's not so much money left to invest and grow. Of course, with big companies that are so well established, don't have a lot of growth opportunities anymore, it's kind of hard to look for where to invest the money, but you can also look at acquisitions, for example, to increase the value of the company. But if almost all the money goes to shareholders, there's not that much money left to do acquisitions. So if you want to do an acquisition, you need to issue debt or you need to issue more shares, and that doesn't help the shareholders. So another important metric that I always look at is the PE ratio. That's an abbreviation for price to earnings. So how high is the market price compared to the earnings? And in this case, it's 32.5. That's pretty high, especially for such a big company. Typically, you see a PE ratio of 15 to 20. The PE ratio is normally lower for big, well-established companies that don't have a lot of growth prospects anymore. And it's typically higher for companies that do have a lot of potential and are just starting out. So for example, if we look at Lemonade, one of my favorite stocks, Lemonade is not even making money yet, so the PE ratio doesn't exist because there wasn't any earnings. But for those kind of companies, it's way higher because they're just starting out and people see the growth potential. They're growing 100% per year or more. And the Coca-Cola company, as we saw, is even declining in revenue. Of course, still getting a lot of money, bringing in a lot of money, but it is declining and room for growth is not really there. So that's really high, the PE ratio. Another thing that I like to look at is the company diluting you as a shareholder, or are they buying back shares and giving you extra value as a shareholder? And if you don't know what share dilution is, I recently made a video about it, so if you want to learn more about it, check the link in the description, or you can click on the icon. So yeah, let's see. If we go at this website, shares outstanding history, you can see that in 2010 there was 4.6 billion shares outstanding, and if we look at today, that's 4.3 billion. So they bought back a little bit, but more or less it stayed kind of stable throughout 10 years. So that's a good sign. Another thing I always look at is how much cash is available and how are the current assets in comparison with the current liabilities. What that basically means is, does the company have enough short-term assets to pay for the short-term liabilities? If we look here, current assets is 19 billion and almost 11 billion is in cash or cash equivalents. And if we look at the current liabilities, that's currently 14.6 billion. So they have more than enough current assets to cover their current liabilities. So that's always good. Moving on from the analysis, what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of the Coca-Cola company? Well, if we look at the strengths of the Coca-Cola company, the biggest one is their brand value and brand awareness. So as you can see here on Interbrand, they have a list on the best global brands in the world, and currently Coca-Cola is the 6th best brand. They give it a value of 56 billion. As you can see here, it was higher, but went down quite a bit. It went from 80 billion to 56 billion, but still it's one of the most valuable brands in the world. That's worth a lot. And the brand awareness, the people that recognize the logo is 94%. Worldwide, 94% knows about Coca-Cola. So like I said, you must have been living under a rock if you don't know about this company. Another really strong point from the Coca-Cola Company is their track record in providing high amounts of revenue and high amounts of cash flow and distributing this to their shareholders. And one of the most famous shareholders of Coca-Cola is Warren Buffett with his company Berkshire Hathaway, and they own 400 million shares of Coca-Cola and never sold one share. So just from dividend payments alone, they receive $168 million per quarter. That's insane. And here I want to show you guys a small clip of Warren Buffett where he talks about why he likes Coca-Cola so much.
I like wonderful brands. You got to take care of them, but if you take care of a great brand, it's forever. And those are the businesses I like. We own 400 million shares of Coca-Cola stock, as you know. We've never sold a share, and I wouldn't think of selling a share.
Moving on to the weak points of the Coca-Cola Company. One of the biggest weak points for me is the low growth opportunities. Because Coca-Cola is such a well-established brand, they sell in almost all the countries of the world. They have so many different brands, so many different products. To keep growing their business is really difficult. If you look at one of their biggest competitors, PepsiCo, for example, you see that they differentiated their product portfolio to also food. The Coca-Cola Company is not doing that. I don't know if they will do that, but that could be a big market potentially to increase their sales, but I don't really see that happening anytime soon. At least there's no talking about that. We actually see the profit and revenue declining the last few years. The other weakness for me is that their dividend payout ratio is so high. With 80 to 90% of their profit going to shareholders, there's limited amount of money left over to invest in growth of the company. And another thing is if the revenue goes down even more and the profitability as well, then the dividend payment won't be sustainable anymore. So they either have to increase their debt to keep paying the dividend, or they have to cut their dividend in the future. Another weakness is the concerns about health, because everyone knows that there's like 34 cubes of sugar in a single Coca-Cola container. It's super bad for you. And of course they have many different options that are not so bad, but it is a big concern. And especially in the world we live in today, where people are focused more and more on what they eat, what they drink, what they put in their own body, this can potentially hurt Coca-Cola quite a bit. So with all this information, is Coca-Cola a buy right now? Well, first let's look at some predictions of stock analysts and see what they think. If we look here, is Coca-Cola a buy or not? And based on 7 analysis, they basically say that it is a buy because the lowest prediction for next year is $55 per share and the highest one is $64. But I found some other sources because one source is no source. And if we look here, we have 12 Wall Street analysis and they offer more or less the same with average price of $60.45 per share. 8 say it's buy, 4 hold it, and no one is saying to sell it. So again, looking pretty good. So if we look at the predictions of the Wall Street analysts, we can see that in the short term, next year, they expect the Coca-Cola Company to go up even more. And let me take a sip, by the way. Really nice drink. One of my favorite drinks is Coca-Cola Zero. So what do I think of the Coca-Cola Company? Well, I think it's an amazing company, really nice for shareholders as well, as they have been buying back shares. They have been sharing the profits with the shareholders, actually most of their profits with their shareholders. So that's really nice. It's a very strong brand. Everybody knows it. I don't expect that people will stop drinking their products anytime soon, but they don't have a lot of opportunity to grow, and they also don't have a lot of profit that they can reinvest in the company to grow their business. Dividend yield is pretty good with 3.1%. It's definitely a nice paying dividend stock, but it's definitely not the highest paying dividend stock whatsoever. So if you are just interested in high paying dividend stocks, the Coca Cola Company isn't the best choice, I think. And also if you look for companies that pay a dividend but also still have a lot of room to grow, I also don't think Coca Cola Company fits that description, because increasing their dividend will be very difficult and probably not sustainable. So for me right now, Coca-Cola is not a buy, because for me the PE ratio is way too high, the payout ratio is really high, see low opportunities for growth. Right now for me it's not a buy. If the price goes down to maybe $40-$45 per share, I definitely will consider buying Coca-Cola, but for now I have to say no. So yeah, with that being said, this was my analysis of the Coca-Cola Company. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Coca-Cola Company and what you are doing. Are you buying it? Are you holding it? Or are you selling your stocks of Coca-Cola right now? If you made it this far in the video and you learned something, you liked it, please don't forget to smash that like button. It would really help me out a lot. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day.